The galactic visitors fell silent as humanity's battleship entered the system. Part 1. The arrival. The Nexus station rotated slowly in the void between three distant suns, a marvel of engineering that had stood for 5,000 years. Built by the ancient architects before they vanished into the depths of space, it served as neutral ground for the Galactic Trade Council. Today, representatives from 8 major civilizations had gathered in its crystalline halls to discuss a matter of growing concern: the humans. Commander Zirian of the Valdari Supremacy stood at the observation deck, his forearms crossed behind his back. His species had evolved on a high-gravity world, giving them bodies like living stone and minds sharp as molecular blades. Through the transparent aluminum windows, he watched ships from various worlds dock with practiced precision. Each vessel reflected its creator's philosophy. The Eldari ships looked like frozen music, all curves and flowing lines. The Mechanari arrived in perfect geometric cubes. The Aquari vessels resembled deep-sea creatures adapted for the vacuum of space. None of them looked like weapons. That was considered barbaric in civilized space. Inside the main conference chamber, Ambassador Threen of the Eldari Federation adjusted her ceremonial headdress. Her species had achieved faster-than-light travel when Earth's humans were still discovering fire. She found it amusing that they were even discussing such a primitive species, but recent reports had been troubling. The humans were advancing too quickly. Their radio signals had been detected only 200 years ago, yet they had already achieved nuclear fusion and were experimenting with quantum mechanics. The Mechanari representative, a being of pure artificial intelligence housed in a chrome humanoid shell, projected holographic data into the center of the room. The numbers told a concerning story. Human technological advancement was following an exponential curve that defied all known models of species development. At their current rate, they would achieve faster-than-light travel within 50 Earth years. "This is why we must act now," insisted Prelate Gorvin of the Hegemony Alliance. His reptilian features showed no emotion, but his tail lashed with agitation. "The humans are violent by nature. Their history is written in blood. Wars, conquests, genocide. They cannot be trusted with advanced technology." The Aquari ambassador floated in her water-filled environmental suit, her tentacles creating patterns that her translator converted to speech. "The Council has maintained peace for 3 millennia. We have integrated dozens of species successfully. Why should humans be different?" "Because they are predators," Gorvin replied flatly. "Not just predators, but persistence predators. They evolved to chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. That mentality permeates everything they do. They don't know when to stop." Commander Zirian entered the chamber, his heavy footsteps echoing off the polished floor. "The solution is simple. We maintain the quarantine, keep them confined to their solar system until they either destroy themselves or evolve beyond their primitive instincts." The debate continued for hours. Some argued for first contact and gradual integration. Others wanted to maintain strict isolation. The Eldari suggested covert observation and subtle guidance. The Mechanari calculated probability matrices that showed dozens of possible outcomes, most of them unfavorable. They were so focused on their discussion that they almost missed the alarm. A soft chime echoed through the station, followed by an automated announcement in multiple languages. "Attention! Unscheduled vessel approaching. Configuration unknown. All delegates please remain calm." The ambassadors exchanged glances. Unscheduled arrivals were rare but not unheard of. Pirates occasionally tried to raid the station, though they never got past the defense grid. Sometimes a ship experienced navigation failure and dropped out of hyperspace at the wrong coordinates. But when the tactical display activated, showing the approaching vessel, every being in the room fell silent. The ship was enormous, 3 kilometers long and bristling with what could only be weapons. Its hull was dark metal, scarred and pitted from countless micrometeorite impacts. It looked like it had been forged in a volcano and cooled in an ice storm. There was no grace to its design, no aesthetic consideration. Every angle, every surface, every protruding tower served a clear military purpose. It was the most frightening thing most of them had ever seen. "That's impossible," whispered Ambassador Threen. "The humans don't have faster-than-light travel. Our surveillance would have detected it." The Mechanari's optical sensors whirred as they focused on the tactical display. Configuration matches no known design philosophy. However, certain elements appear consistent with observed human engineering principles. How did they find us? Demanded Gorvin. This location is classified. Only council members know these coordinates. Before anyone could answer, the communication system activated. The voice that came through was calm, professional, and speaking perfect galactic standard despite the slight accent. Nexus Station, this is Captain Marcus Chen of the Earthship Perseverance. I apologize for the unscheduled arrival, but we received your invitation to discuss humanity's future. We thought it only polite to attend. The silence in the conference chamber was deafening. Finally, Commander Zarian activated his communicator. Captain Chen, this is Commander Zarian of Nexus Station. We sent no invitation to Earth. You are in violation of the quarantine zone. Power down your weapons and prepare to be escorted back to your system. The response was immediate and carried a hint of amusement. Commander, I think there's been a misunderstanding. We're not in violation of any quarantine, because we never agreed to one. As for the invitation, you've been broadcasting your location for 5,000 years. Every ship that docks here sends navigation data that can be intercepted and decoded. We've been listening for quite some time. The implications hit the assembled delegates like a physical blow. If the humans had been intercepting and decoding their communications, how much did they know? How long had they been watching? Besides, Captain Chen continued, we're not here to fight. We're here to talk. Permission to send a shuttle to the station? I promise my delegation will be unarmed and peaceful. Gorvan's scales shifted to a threat display. This is unacceptable. One ship or 1,000 we cannot allow. He stopped mid-sentence as every delegate's personal communicator activated simultaneously. The displays showed the same image. Earth's solar system, but not as their surveillance had last seen it. The asteroid belt was gone, replaced by massive industrial stations. Mars glowed with the lights of cities. Orbital shipyards surrounded Earth like a steel cocoon. And ships, hundreds of them, all bearing the same brutal design philosophy as the Perseverance. The message was clear. This wasn't humanity's only ship. This was just the one they sent to talk. How? Threen's voice was barely a whisper. How did you advance so quickly? Chen's voice carried a note of pride. We're very good at working under pressure. When we detected your surveillance probes 50 years ago, we knew we were being watched. We also knew we were being judged. So we did what humans do best. We adapted, we innovated, and we prepared. We're not here as conquerors, Ambassador. We're here as neighbors, but we will not be anyone's subjects. The tactical display updated, showing a small shuttle departing from the Perseverance. It was tiny compared to its parent ship, but even the shuttle looked like it could punch through a moon. Commander Zarian looked around the chamber at his fellow delegates. Each face, regardless of species, showed the same expression. The universe had just become a very different place. The primitive humans they had been discussing like children were already among the stars, and they had arrived in a battleship that could probably take on half the council fleet. I recommend we grant them permission to dock, said the Mechanari, their calculations complete. The probability of a favorable outcome decreases significantly if we refuse. One by one, the delegates nodded their agreement. They had gathered to decide humanity's fate. Now it seemed humanity had arrived to participate in that decision. As the human shuttle approached the station, Ambassador Threen found herself thinking about the old Eldari proverb her grandmother had taught her. Never corner a beast that knows how to build tools. Looking at the massive battleship hanging in space like a steel mountain, she realized the humans had built more than tools. They had built a future, and they had done it while the galaxy wasn't paying attention. The shuttle docked with barely a whisper of contact. The airlock cycled and footsteps echoed in the corridor beyond. The delegates stood, arranging themselves in a formal reception line despite their uncertainty. Protocol was protocol, even when meeting a species that had just shattered every assumption they held. The conference chamber doors opened, and Captain Marcus Chen walked in. The reckoning Captain Marcus Chen was not what they expected. The human stood just under 2 meters tall, unremarkable by galactic standards. He wore a simple black uniform with minimal decoration, unlike the elaborate costumes favored by most diplomatic delegations. His dark hair was cut short, and his brown eyes swept the room with an intensity that made several delegates step back. Behind him walked 4 other humans, each moving with the controlled grace of trained soldiers despite their civilian clothing. Ambassadors, Chen said with a slight bow. Thank you for agreeing to meet with us. I know our arrival was unexpected. Unexpected is an understatement, Commander Zarian rumbled. You've violated several dozen protocols and treaties by coming here. Chen smiled, and several delegates noticed his species still had the sharp canines of predators. With respect, Commander, Earth never signed those treaties. We weren't invited to negotiate them. They were imposed on us without our knowledge or consent. He gestured to his companions. May I introduce my team? Dr. Sarah Kwan, our head of xenobiology. Professor James Okonkwo, cultural specialist. Engineer Lisa Martinez and Colonel David Singh, security advisor. Security? Gorvin's tail lashed. You said you came in peace. We did, Chen replied calmly. But we're not naive. Colonel Singh is here purely as an observer and advisor. As you can see, none of us are armed. The Mechanari scanned them with multiple sensors. Confirmed. No weapons detected. However, their biological readings suggest extensive genetic modifications and cybernetic enhancements. Chen nodded. We've had 50 years to prepare for this moment. We use them wisely. Ambassador Threen floated forward, her natural grace somewhat diminished by uncertainty. Captain Chen, you must understand our position. Humanity's rapid advancement concerns us. Your violent history is no different from any of yours, Dr. Kwan interrupted softly. We've studied your histories too, Ambassador. The Valdari conquered 16 systems before joining the Council. The Hegemony Alliance was formed through 3 brutal wars. Even the peaceful Eldari have a period they call the Dark Millennium. Every species here grew through conflict before achieving peace. But you're still in your conflict phase, insisted Gorvin. Your planet remains divided. You war among yourselves. Professor Okonkwo stepped forward. Actually, that ended 20 years ago. The discovery that we were being watched united humanity like nothing else could. We realized our differences were insignificant compared to the challenge of joining a galactic community that had already judged us as too violent to participate. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The humans hadn't just advanced technologically. They had restructured their entire civilization in response to being observed. Chen walked to the holographic display still showing Earth's system. You quarantined us because you feared we were too aggressive, too unpredictable. But in doing so, you created the very thing you feared, a humanity that knew it was being judged and excluded, a humanity that had to become strong enough to demand a seat at the table rather than beg for one. You speak of demands, Commander Zarian said carefully. What exactly are you demanding? Nothing, Chen replied. We're offering full membership in the Galactic Council, with all rights and responsibilities, trade agreements that benefit all parties, shared technology and knowledge, military alliance against common threats. Military alliance? Threen sounded shocked. The Council maintains peace. We have no common threats. Colonel Singh spoke for the first time, his voice deep and measured. With respect, Ambassador, you have 3 pirate cartels operating in unclaimed space, a rising insurgency in the outer reaches, and according to our intelligence, something you call the Void Hunters has destroyed 6 research stations in the past year. The delegates exchanged alarmed glances. That information was highly classified. Chen continued. We're not asking to be your subjects or your pupils. We're offering to be your partners. Our ships, like the Perseverance, were built for war because we thought we might have to fight for our freedom. But they can just as easily protect trade routes and explore unknown regions. Your ships, the Aquari ambassador gurgled through her translator. How many do you have? Engineer Martinez activated a personal projector, displaying a detailed schematic. Currently, we have 47 capital ships of the Perseverance class, 112 destroyer-class vessels, 300 patrol craft, and the Forge. The Forge? Zarian asked. Our mobile shipyard. It can construct a new capital ship every 3 months using asteroid resources. We built it in the hollow shell of what used to be Ceres. The silence that followed was profound. In 50 years, while under supposed quarantine, humanity had built a fleet that could challenge any single council member. Perhaps several of them together. This is precisely what we feared, Gorvin hissed. You've militarized your entire species. No, Chen said firmly. We've prepared our species. There's a difference. We've also developed medical technology that could help the Aquari with their genetic degradation problem, agricultural techniques that could triple the Eldari's food production, quantum processors that would enhance Mechanari computational abilities. We didn't just build weapons. We built solutions, Dr. Kwan added. We've studied all of your species from afar. We know your strengths, but we also know your challenges. The Valdari's home system is running out of rare elements. The hegemony faces overpopulation. Everyone has problems. Humanity's gift has always been creative problem-solving under pressure. And if we refuse? Commander Zerion asked bluntly. If we maintain the quarantine? Chen's expression hardened slightly. Then we'll continue as we have been. Building, growing, expanding. We'll establish our own trade networks with species outside the Council. We'll explore regions you've deemed too dangerous. We'll become the alternative to your order, not because we want to, but because you've left us no choice. He paused, letting the words sink in. Or we can work together. Your choice. Ambassador Threen found herself studying the humans with new eyes. They weren't the primitive aggressors the Council had imagined. They were something far more dangerous and valuable. They were innovators who had turned exclusion into motivation, surveillance into intelligence, and quarantine into preparation. You've been watching us all this time, she said slowly, learning our languages, our customs, our weaknesses. And our strengths, Professor Okonkwo added diplomatically. We've learned a great deal from all of you, even from a distance. Your art, your philosophy, your scientific achievements. We want to contribute to that legacy, not destroy it. The Mechanari suddenly spoke, their artificial voice carrying unusual emotion. I motion to vote on immediate provisional membership for humanity in the Galactic Council. Seconded, said the Aquari ambassador, surprising everyone. Gorvin's scales rippled with agitation. This is too fast. We need time to consider. Time for what? Chen interrupted. To build more ships, to strengthen your defenses, to form alliances against us. We know fear when we see it, Prelate. We've felt it ourselves. But fear is a poor foundation for lasting peace. He walked to the center of the room, addressing all the delegates. We came here in a battleship not to threaten, but to show we can't be threatened. We came with solutions not to bribe, but to show we have value. We're not asking for your approval or your permission. We're offering our partnership. The question is whether you're brave enough to accept it. Colonel Singh added quietly. The Perseverance is one ship, but right now, 3 more are holding position 1 light-year away. They can be here in minutes or they can return home. The choice is yours. It was a masterful play. The humans had shown strength without aggression, value without desperation, and most importantly, they had made it clear that the galaxy would have to deal with them one way or another. Commander Zerion looked at his fellow delegates, reading their expressions. The universe had changed the moment that battleship appeared. The only question now was whether they would adapt to that change or resist it. I call for a vote, he said finally. All in favor of granting provisional membership to humanity? One by one, the hands, tentacles, and appendages rose. Even Gorvin, after a long moment, raised his clawed hand. Motion carried, Zerion announced. Captain Chen, welcome to the Galactic Council. Chen smiled, and this time it reached his eyes. Thank you. I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. As the formal proceedings began, with documents being drafted and protocols being established, Ambassador Threen found herself standing next to Dr. Quan. You planned all of this, she said quietly. The dramatic entrance, the show of force, the careful balance of threat and promise. Quan smiled. We're human, Ambassador. Drama is in our nature, but so is hope. We didn't build those ships just to fight. We built them to explore, to protect, to carry our dreams to the stars. Now we can do that together. Outside the station, the Perseverance hung in space like a promise and a warning. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage not as subjects or supplicants, but as equals. The galaxy would never be the same. And in the depths of space, 3 more battleships turned toward home, their mission complete. Humanity had won their place among the stars not through conquest, but through the most human trait of all, the absolute refusal to accept someone else's limitations on their potential. The Council had tried to quarantine humanity. Instead, they had forged them into something stronger. And now, for better or worse, they would face the future together.